On the 5th of May earlier this year, a 27-year-old man named Raylon Bivins was spending the evening with his friends in Seattle, Washington, when seemingly out of nowhere, he suddenly stopped responding to his messages. He was eventually reported missing by his mother, Mila Harris Knox, on the 12th of June after his family and friends realized they hadn't heard from Raylon in over a month, which was unlike him. However, after almost 3 months of searching, the Seattle police are still yet to locate the professional dancer, and his family are urging the public to keep an eye out for him as he may be in danger. Since his disappearance, there have been a few unofficial sightings of the young man, but as his last confirmed communication was now over 4 months ago, the reality of the situation is growing more desperate, especially as his case lines up suspiciously close to the recent disappearance of Jared Shadid, another 27-year-old African American who also went missing in Seattle just a couple of months ago. But despite the worrying details surrounding Raylon's case, it is still yet to be covered by any local news outlets, leading me to wonder, should we be concerned by the recent number of young professional African American men going missing on the West Coast? Raylon J. Bivins was born on the 17th of April in 1997 to parents Mila Harris Knox and Travis J. Bivins in the city of Los Angeles. Not much is known about his upbringing, but from what his friends and family have said, he has always been an extremely kind and loving person. From a young age, he had a passion for dance and theatre performing, and so it was certainly no surprise when he decided to attend Lindenwood University in Missouri to complete his bachelor's degree in Arts of Business Administration. After graduating, he began his search for work, where he would eventually land a job for the Norwegian Cruise Line, performing in Footloose as the dance captain. In addition to his day job, he also was a manager at Primetime Dance and Showbiz National Talent, where he would share his skills with other budding performers. He also had big plans to make it in the business industry, where he had hoped to one day open his own performing arts school. Now, this was a realistic dream for Raylon, and his peers knew it was only a matter of time before he would make it, with his disciplined work ethic and passion for theatre and dance. To add to the long list of attributes Raylon possessed, his mother also described him as incredibly talented and kind-hearted, but unfortunately, that doesn't mean his upbringing didn't come with its fair share of troubles. In a Facebook post made by his mother Mila to celebrate his 24th birthday, she wrote, "I am beyond proud of my world traveller, my twin. There is no manual to being a parent or child, but we walk this thing out, living and learning. We had our rough days and maybe even rough years, but God continues to show himself as the centre. Keep travelling the world and experiencing all that you can, within godly reason. But live. Keep putting God first. You are by far my favourite son." So based on this, I think it's safe to say we can assume that there were a few issues in his childhood, perhaps nothing more than we all face as human beings. But is it possible that these issues may have been the underlying catalyst that would inevitably lead to his sudden disappearance? On the 5th of May earlier this year, Raylon Bivins had been travelling the west coast of the United States, attempting to experience everything it had to offer, when he eventually ended up in the city of Seattle. On this particular evening, he was spotted walking along South Washington Street, likely in search of some entertainment for the night. It is unknown where he was going or if he was meeting with anyone in particular, but after this night, nobody would be able to get a hold of him, which continues to be the case to this day. After his mother Mila started to become worried, given that she hadn't heard from her son in over a month, she asked around with people who knew Raylon to see if they had heard from him. But after getting the same story from his closest friends, that he had been failing to communicate since May, Mila's worry soon turned to dread, as she felt she had no other option than to officially report her 27-year-old son as missing. On the 12th of June, the Seattle police began their investigation and started searching the area he was last seen in to see if they could find any useful evidence. Initially, there were high hopes Raylon would be found, given that they received a tip that he may have just been struggling with substance abuse, and so was likely strung out somewhere at a friend's house. However, as the days passed with no official sightings of Raylon, the investigation started to heat up, with Seattle police beginning to communicate with the more local Tacoma PD to see if they could locate the missing young man. There were a few unofficial sightings in Tacoma, which led police to assume he may just be down on his luck and potentially living rough somewhere. However, once again, they were unable to confirm his location, and whenever they would follow up on a lead, Raylon continued to evade discovery. After a few weeks had passed with no further updates, his face was then plastered all over social media to try and raise more awareness, in the hopes that somebody would recognise him and provide another tip to the police. But despite the strong efforts of his friends and family, he still remains missing to this day. Unfortunately, at this time, there are no more details publicly available on the case, so I'm unable to provide any more information on his disappearance or the official investigation. However, with Raylon now being missing for over 4 months, his situation is getting bleaker by the day. So with that, let's get into some of the potential theories. Now, to kick off with a more controversial explanation, could this case be possibly linked to the equally mysterious disappearance of Jared Shadid? This was a case I personally covered a week ago on my channel, so if you would like more details, make sure to check it out after this one. I'll leave a link in the description below. But just to quickly summarise, Jared was also a young African American who had recently decided to travel across the country on a solo trip, only to go missing soon after. He was also a very well educated and talented person, who was a professional lawyer in his home state of Maryland, and coincidentally, both Jared and Raylon went missing after travelling to Seattle within a similar time frame. Now, these aren't the only similarities. Both men were 27 years old at the time of their disappearance, and were described as being extremely friendly and loving people who would usually keep in touch with their friends and family. Also, they both disappeared under very strange circumstances, which has led me to link the two cases as a possible series of potentially nefarious disappearances from the west coast of America. But outside of the more superficial connections, how can we actually link these two missing people together? Well, not only did both men disappear in Seattle, but Raylon's last official sighting was less than 2 miles away from Jared's last official sighting in Capitol Hill. Also, I would prefer to refrain from making any assumptions about their sexuality, but from the pictures we have of the two of them, it may be safe to assume they both could have been inclined towards same-sex relationships. Now, I'm not saying they disappeared together and ran off into the sunset, but rather they may have been purposely selected as potential victims due to their distinct profiles. Of course, this is nothing more than speculation, but with Jared going missing just 2 months after Raylon was last seen, and with their on-paper descriptions being almost identical, it's not too much of a stretch in my opinion to say they both could have been victims of the same suspect. However, if this is the case, what would that mean? Now, as far-fetched as it may sound, could there be a potential serial killer on the loose who is hunting young, educated African American men on the West Coast? Perhaps even Yohanes could be pulled into the mix, who was another young, educated African American who went missing last month from San Francisco, not too far from where Jared Shadid's car was located after his suspicious disappearance. Again, I will just explicitly say that these are merely my own personal thoughts that have no official weight to them. However, this theory is certainly interesting, to say the least. But if Raylon's mysterious disappearance isn't related to Jared, or anything malicious for that matter, what else could have happened to this talented young man? Well, a popular theory would likely be that Raylon had simply come under some tough times and is somewhere on the streets or hiding out at a friend's house. Maybe his career was not quite panning out how he had hoped, which led him down a path of self-destruction and substance abuse, resulting in a sudden mental breakdown. Now, whether Raylon is still with us is hopefully not something we need to debate, as there have been a few unofficial sightings of him over the last few months. But until we can confirm these sightings and actually speak to the man himself, there is every chance he may tragically no longer be with us. But either way, in my opinion, the longer we wait to find him, the higher the chance he may suffer at the hands of somebody on the street, or even himself. So if this is the case, I truly hope the Seattle police are able to uncover something very soon, so we can find Raylon and get him back on the right path. But my problem with this theory is that even if you were homeless or spending your days in a haze of substance abuse, surely you would still think about your friends and family, and you would find a way to update them to make sure they know you're okay. Even if you had to lie about your circumstances to save them the worry, you would surely still contact somebody. So the fact that Raylon has been completely silent for 4 months now is certainly alarming, in my opinion. Plus, knowing Raylon, he seems to be the kind of person who would not want his friends and family to be worried, as he would usually put their needs above his own. However, saying this, perhaps the potential substance abuse has taken over his mindset and led to a more selfish outlook. We can only speculate at this time, but either way, I am praying he eventually turns up somewhere and gets the help he needs. Now, I apologise for not being able to provide any more information around this case. After 4 months of being missing, you would think there would be countless news articles and videos raising awareness, but for some reason, this particular case seems to have slipped through the cracks. Raylon has been missing from the 5th of May, and since then there have been many other similar cases that have occurred within the same time, which have received numerous news articles and much more exposure. So I can't help but feel sorry for Raylon and his family, that they haven't been given more help with their case. However, my hope is that this video will help raise some much needed awareness, and as a community, we can find Raylon and bring him home. But just before I close off the video, I wanted to leave you with this beautifully written message by one of Raylon's best friends, Miranda Widman. If you know Raylon Bivins, he is the light on the cloudiest day. He's someone who feels like home when you see him. He's someone who you can count on, laughing the absolute hardest with. And he's someone I felt so proud to see go out into the world, knowing the world needed more of him and his talent. Everyone struggles, everyone has baggage. Through all of this, I've learned to always check on the strong friends, the ones who would never want to show you the dark part of their day, the ones who never judge you and who show up and climb through your window when you need it the most. Yes, he actually did this. The what ifs and whys don't matter right now. Finding him and getting the word out to get him home safe does. I wish I had more power to get his face blasted on every news station, because if there's one thing he would do for me, it's go the extra mile and then some. I've seen what the power of social media can do, and it's his turn to feel the love he so freely gives to everyone else around him. So with that, I think I'll leave this video here. But if you are from the Seattle area and would like to aid in the search for Raylon, you are welcome to join his mother, Mila Harris Knox, for the in-person search, which is running from the 15th to the 18th of September. If you would like more details, please contact Mila for information. I'll leave her contact info in the description of this video. Also, if you have any theories of your own about what may have happened to Raylon, or maybe a similar case which you feel might be worth covering on this channel, please let me know in the comments and I'll make sure to get back to you. But anyway, thank you for watching, and remember to subscribe if you haven't already. And don't forget to check out my previous videos on Jared Shadid and Yohanes, which are on screen now.